Welcome back to another edition of Force Friday, where we talk about Star Wars theories, characters, concepts, comparisons, analyzations, collectibles, and more. And today we're going to be talking about lightsabers, a Jedi's weapon. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster, an elegant weapon for a more civilized age. So probably top 5 coolest weapons of all time, which could be an interesting conversation in and of itself. I think Wolverine's claws might be number 1. We'll talk about it later. But at the very least, it may be the most iconic item from the Star Wars franchise. Apart from its unique function, the Skywalker lightsaber narratively ties all 3 trilogies together, being passed down from hero to hero. So ultimately, it is one of the larger common links throughout. And if you're an individual that's never lit an imaginary lightsaber while nobody was watching, I'm not sure if you're the type of guy I can trust. So let's talk about the lore of them. All lightsabers are powered by kyber crystals. Kyber crystals can be found throughout the galaxy, but are exceptionally rare. They are organic crystals that have a unique attachment to the Force, being able to channel it and form bonds with their wielder. Kyber crystals are most commonly found on the remote ice world of Ilum, on the border of the mysterious unknown regions. This planet was guarded for a millennia by the Jedi Order, with only their members having access to the planet. Larger colored kyber crystals have been seen, and particularly the massive green shards used to power the Death Star super lasers. But Ilum was pillaged and utterly decimated by the Empire for this purpose, leaving the planet missing great chunks of its surface. The First Order later used the remains of this planet for Starkiller Base, with the planet's kyber presumably being the reason. There are various types of lightsabers in canon. Most are the standard 3-foot length single blade, but others include double-bladed, saber staffs, shoto or short blade lightsabers, crossguard blades, and even switchblade style double blades. Now in Legends, what we used to call the Old EU, lightsaber colors during the time of the Old Republic often signified a Jedi's rank. Blue indicated someone more focused on combat, green on the Force, yellow on a mix of combat and learning, etc. This was because in the Old EU, crystals usually had their color before a Jedi found them. The color of a lightsaber blade, besides from red indicating a dark side user, has no real distinctive meaning within the current canon. But within the current canon, all lightsabers are unique to their builder, and no two are exactly alike. Within the Jedi Order, younglings assemble their lightsabers during a ritual known as the Gathering. Traveling to Ilum, they journey into the planet's ice caves, where they each are tested and must confront a fear or lesson through the Force. In these caves, they find a kyber crystal. A kyber crystal calls to a Jedi through the Force and is clear with no distinguishable color. Upon leaving the caves, the younglings assemble their lightsabers using the Force. The color of a lightsaber blade is unknown to a Jedi until they activate it. This trial was first seen in Clone Wars Season 5 episode The Gathering, which was actually part of an arc intended to launch a youngling-centric Clone Wars spin-off show, an idea of Lucas's that never took off. Praise the Force. But some Jedi instead assemble their lightsabers with their masters, and many choose to build their lightsaber hilts with some features of their teacher's saber. A great example of this is Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi's first lightsabers. So the other side of that coin are the Sith. Now in the Old EU, now called Legends, Sith Lords did not use a natural kyber crystal, but rather created synthetic ones inside a special furnace. Using the dark side of the Force in combination with science, these blades tended to almost always have the Sith's distinctive red color, although the color could be different depending on the creator. Synthetic crystals were highly discouraged among the Jedi, although Luke Skywalker created his second lightsaber using a synthetic crystal. Also, synthetic crystals created using the dark side were said to be more powerful than naturally powered blades, and could occasionally quote-unquote break an opponent's lightsaber blade. Now, in the current canon, the Sith do not choose a kyber crystal in a mutual bond like the Jedi do. All Sith must hunt down and kill a Jedi or lightsaber-wielding Force user, claiming their lightsaber and removing the crystal within. They then channel the power of the dark side into the crystal, filling it with all of their hatred, pain, and anger. This causes the crystal to literally bleed and turn red, giving dark side users their distinctive crimson-colored blades. From there, they either harvest parts from the remains of the victim's lightsaber or construct their own. This technique was first shown in the Marvel comic series Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, and has since been featured in several pieces of media, most recently in The Rise of Kylo Ren. Now let's go behind the scenes a bit. The lightsabers used on screen for A New Hope were actually constructed using various camera parts. Darth Vader's was made using a British 3-cell MPP microflash with the grips made of windshield wipers. Luke Skywalker's was famously made from a Graflex camera flash tube. These parts are now exceedingly rare, though there are fans who have hunted down the original pieces to construct a perfect replica. Obi-Wan Kenobi's was built from a decommissioned commissioned World War I hand grenade. The lightsaber effect was extremely difficult to achieve on A New Hope. The original plan was for the lightsaber blade to be covered in reflective material and rotate within the hilt, shining light and giving the camera the impression of a glow. However, this proved to be extremely difficult to film, and all the lightsabers of the original trilogy were painted over the film footage using rotoscoping. The lightsabers of the prequel trilogy were physical props with the blade and glow entirely digitally created. The sequels used real glowing props with the blade digitally replaced. This allowed entirely natural light to be cast from the blades and not digitally added later, which in my opinion does make a difference. The lightsabers are kind of a classic representation of a trope that Star Wars often uses, which is taking something that's somewhat old or historic, not quite current or modern, but not quite ancient and unknown, and replacing it or evolving it into something that's futuristic. So the old saloon becomes the modern cantina, and the old sword of the knights becomes the quote-unquote laser sword, as George Lucas often called it, and was referenced in The Last Jedi, adding a futuristic effect to an old, familiar, but uncommon weapon of today. One of the things that the prequels did was give lightsabers a bit more character and unique feeling, which has only been built upon. So Darth Maul's double-bladed lightsaber pretty much changed the way that we saw them forever. Before then, it was pretty much just red, green, or blue laser swords. Darth Maul's opened up the window to a whole new possibility of what a lightsaber could mean, which then went, in my opinion, into the broadsword style from Kylo Ren. One of the things I liked about his in particular was the blade was a bit more ravaged, and he holds it and wields it as if it has real weight to it, like it's a heavier lightsaber, which in my mind is metaphoric for a lot of the stuff that he's carrying around with him. Stuff like that is stuff that has really grown, evolved, and moved the lore forward, in my opinion, and I'm quite a big fan. The other thing I'm a fan of in Star Wars is what I call the pull. How a Jedi or Sith removes the lightsaber from his or her belt and gets ready to go to work. Some of my favorites are Darth Maul's when he gets ready to face down Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. I like that he puts a little swag into his move in order to let him know it's go time, when it really wasn't needed. Could have just pulled it out and turned it on and went to work. But now I'm going to show you that I'm capable of doing a little bit here. Kylo has a few that I'm a fan of. I love when he goes into a fit of rage in The Force Awakens and grabs the one from behind him off his belt when he realized that Rey is gone. I know that feeling of like, I shouldn't have done this. I've made a mistake. Like when you gamble with something like, I'll just go ahead and leave my keys in the car, and then you come out and you've locked your keys in your car. It's like, no. So that's one of my favorites. But I also like when he squares off against Luke, shedding his cape with a shoulder shrug, getting crouched down to bear the weight of that weapon, and then firing it on. But my all-time favorite lightsaber pull is Yoda's in Attack of the Clones. It's the fact that he uses his hand to pull back his cloak and rips the lightsaber from his belt with his other hand using the Force. He theoretically could have done both physically or done both with the Force, but there's something extremely confident, arguably arrogant, a conversation for a different time, but most importantly with style that he did about it. I love the uniqueness of the weapons. I love the uniqueness of the sound, the look, the style of combat that they use. It's without a doubt one of the most iconic weapons, not only in Star Wars, but in pop culture in general, and continues to be a fan favorite throughout 40 years of media, covering 4 generations who have all probably had a lightsaber duel with a friend at some point in time. And look, before we get out of here, you know I had to take the opportunity to talk about one thing that's very important to me in regard to these weapons and in regard to toys. So I still to this day don't think that anybody has made an accessory of a lightsaber for a figure, at least in regard to retail, appropriately. We have plastic color lightsaber blades. We have translucent lightsaber blades. We have translucent blades that light up via batteries stored in the forearms, and all of them are fine. However, I personally think that the best way to approach this in regard to action figure accessory lightsabers is a white rod through the center of the blade that will be the same rod that pegs into the hilt of the blade, with then a clear coat translucent plastic around it of the corresponding color, because that's how those weapons look on screen. It's a white center with the color around it. It still won't be perfect. However, I think with a light up feature it could be, but it will look more like the weapon. I'm trying to find a picture. I'll see if I can. I'll post it here. Lego has done something similar with their Yoda, and it's the closest I've seen to a lightsaber looking appropriate. appropriate for an action figure accessory. When it comes to real life prop replicas, there are very expensive options out there. I personally just collect the modern Black Series lightsaber, which is pretty much just an evolution of what the Force FX ones used to be. And there is also reports of Hasbro working on a real lightsaber. Of course, it won't cut, but one that has some sort of limited blade on it that does ignite from the hilt without a plastic piece on all the time that they showed off at Celebration. You can research and find stuff about it from people who were in the room and saw it. I haven't seen it for myself, but apparently it was pretty impressive. I'll be back soon. Until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.